Hello and welcome to another episode of the Blood Red Morning Bulletin. And this is the bulletin that we all wanted to be doing. Saw it there on the thumbnail. Liverpool win the Carabao Cup. That is what we like to see. There's debates to be had about, where the Carabao Cup stands in the importance of the game, but no one really cares about that when the trophy gets lifted. It was a great feeling after a hugely intense game. Ben, never in doubt, was it?
Yeah, I think overall Liverpool probably had the better of Chelsea in 90 minutes. Then in extra time, I think maybe Chelsea were the better team by then. But with the penalty shootout, it's 50-50. And when the whole team puts away their penalties, then you would like to see you win it. You'd like to think that you were going to win it. And yeah, it was in the end, I think, maybe not the perfect way to win in terms of, keeping the players fresh, but for fans and, as stories go, it's not a bad one.
For sure. I think it's Norwich in the FA Cup next anyway, so it could be
Mm.
worse in terms of fatigue issues. But yeah, absolutely. It was a pulsating end, but it could have been very different had it not been for one Caoimhin Kelleher. I mean, of course, he ended up being the hero in the shootout in many ways, but he was a hero in normal time as well. Liverpool could have been behind very easily after 5 minutes, couldn't they?
Yeah, he made some excellent saves. Yeah, and, a lot of people highlighted, I think, Edouard Mendy in the Chelsea goal, but I think Kelleher, a couple of pundits pointed out Kelleher was just as good, really, in that shootout. That's how I saw it anyway. Some of the saves he made were incredible, and I think that just shows you the quality of the strength and depth Liverpool have.
Absolutely. I love the storyline as well. The kind of ruthless Tuchel axing his cup keeper and then axing his normal keeper ahead of the penalty shootout. So two sort of kind of ruthless calls. And you got Klopp after the game saying that there has to be room for sentiment in football. He gives Kelleher the chance basically just because he couldn't tell him that he wasn't starting the final after getting Liverpool there. And yeah, the sentimental choice was rewarded with, like you say, an excellent performance. There was a save from Pulisic, kept out Mount, and then right at the end as well, sort of bookending the game with a Pulisic save and then the Lukaku save with the close range flick. I thought that might be it. But much as Kelleher is the kind of obvious hero, there were plenty of players out there who put in good performances. Who else did you kind of spot as kind of key to the eventual success?
Well, I think Luis Diaz was fantastic. He was Liverpool's main threat, I think, for the 97 minutes he spent on the pitch. I think the midfield played well, relatively well, considering they were coming up against the likes of N'Golo Kante and Mateo Kovacic, who are in red hot form at the moment. And then I think Ibrahima Konate's introduction in extra time was crucial for the trajectory of the game. The way Chelsea had introduced Timo Werner and Romelu Lukaku, and it looked like they were causing Liverpool a few problems running in behind, but Konate neutralised that. And I think without his introduction, who knows what could have happened.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I think we'll have a piece coming on that later. But yeah, definitely worth highlighting the contributions of Konate. Didn't start, but as you say, in the game state, he was the player who was needed, and I think it's one of the interesting things for Klopp at the moment. He has those kind of horses for courses at centre back. He can pick the one who is best suited to the opponent, to the game state, and he made that change to great effect. Really,
I think what must be highlighted as well in terms of Klopp recently is his substitutions. Like, they've been changing the game and helping Liverpool in a lot of ways in like the last few weeks, really. In the past, I think he was criticised for, not making the right decisions when it comes to subs. But now with a bigger squad, I think it's being vindicated that he is quite good at doing the subs.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's just never necessarily had the depth to do them quite so effectively in the past. Although even before these last few games, there were interesting statistics in terms of goals from substitutes. The kind of stats where Klopp nearly always found himself at the top, perhaps surprisingly. But yeah, that kind of weapon has just been supercharged with more options from the bench. Absolutely. And also, I suppose it highlights just how well Diaz has settled, in the sense that Mane was taken off before Diaz. Klopp agreed with your assessment that Diaz was one of the best players out there, and let him keep going. He might even have had longer if he hadn't sort of picked up a little bit of a knock. I mean, I don't think it's anything serious, but he played a long time. I think he was stretching to keep the ball in play, and then was sort of moving a little bit gingerly after that, and that saw Divock Origi brought into the fray. I think we all thought maybe he might end up being the hero, but it didn't pan out quite that way. Not that anyone minds. But you mentioned the midfield a bit earlier, so we'll come back to that, because it wasn't the midfield that was expected to start the game until almost 5 minutes before kickoff. There was the cruel setback for Thiago. Don't think anyone was necessarily the most confident when the game kicked off with one of our best players on the sidelines in tears. But Naby Keita did quite well, didn't he, coming in at such short notice?
Yeah, I mean, the first 10 minutes, you kind of worried for him. It looked like he was, kind of just thrown in the deep end, really. He didn't look settled at all. But then he grew into the game, I think, and he made Kante's job quite uncomfortable, I think, in the end. He did what he was there to do, essentially. He pressed and harassed Chelsea, and he was good in possession as well. So yeah, I don't think you can criticize his performance at all. I think it was just a fine performance.
And that domino effect, of course, meant that Harvey Elliott, who wasn't even in the squad, eventually made it on and took a penalty. He didn't have necessarily the most effective time out on the pitch when he got on, but he did his job, much like Keita did. And then when it came to the pressure penalty, wow! I mean, I don't think anyone wanted a situation where such a young player was taking a penalty. We all saw it at the Euros with England. We've seen it plenty of times before, but a composed spot kick.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it helped that it was in front of the Liverpool fans. He just, I don't know. I mean, I was never worried about him, to be honest. He's a confident guy, and his injury, the way he came back from that, and his mentality throughout it just it shows what character he has. And it was one of the most comfortable spot kicks. I think nothing beats Van Dijk's when the way he slotted it past Kepa, but Elliott's was up there for sure.
Nothing beats Van Dijk's. I think Fabinho might disagree with you there.
Maybe, but I think Van Dijk's, the way Kepa was standing on that left side, and Van Dijk still went, you know what? I'm still gonna go for that side. I think the confidence to do that is quite something.
Yeah, I've been wanting to see Van Dijk take a penalty for a while, to be fair. You felt like he'd have that kind of thing in the locker, and he didn't disappoint. But I'm afraid Fabinho is the one I'm going to be watching on loop for weeks to come. But speaking of the weeks to come, there's plenty of silverware still on offer for Liverpool, and so it's worth briefly asking what comes next. It's the ideal way to kickstart this business end of the season, really, with a trophy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. I think Salah posted something like 1 down to go, which means you can clearly tell what the players have on their minds. And the next game up, like you say, is against Norwich in the FA Cup. That's another perfect opportunity to advance to the latter stages of that tournament. And I think it also gives Liverpool an opportunity to rotate a few players. Maybe Minamino will play. I'm sure he'll be gutted not to have featured in the final. And then, of course, the Premier League. Liverpool are not that far behind City now, and I think the way City kind of struggled to get past Everton, they needed a late goal in that game. Some controversial decisions, might I add, as well. I think it just shows you that they are still vulnerable, and with Liverpool having this momentum behind them, they're unbeaten in a lot of games now, and they're in a good run of form. So with that in mind, I think you'd back Liverpool to take them all the way, really.
Yeah, the quadruple could still be on. It's tempting to leave it there, but as you mentioned, the controversial calls, I'll briefly touch on that as well. As you say, in that City game, who knows why that wasn't a penalty? Mystifying. And then Liverpool had some VAR controversy of their own in the final. It looked for a while like that could be decisive with what should have been a Joel Matip winner chalked off. It looked like they were looking for an excuse to ruin a perfect moment, and they duly found one with this kind of Van Dijk interfering from an offside position.
Yeah.
What did you make of that?
I mean, it was a strange one for sure. I'm sure you were gutted, James, with that being chalked off. In the end, though, I think it was cancelled out by the Lukaku goal, which again didn't seem like it was offside, or must be the hair's breadth away, from being offside. I think that Lukaku one kind of reminded me of Henderson's offside against Everton last season, if people remember, in that game that no one wants to think about. So I think in the end, the bad decisions were cancelled out by each other. And you can't really complain because Liverpool won. So who cares at the end of the day?
Yeah, a fair assessment. I thought I'd be doing another morning bulletin in the Matip shirt for a while there, but yeah, I mean, like you say, it all pales into significance come the final whistle. But what I would say, no one's enjoying this. I mean, what has VAR added to the game? I would still say not very much. Decisions are still getting incorrectly, made, and fans are having to wait before they can properly celebrate. It's just, what's it added to the game? In my opinion, nothing. But VAR ran over. Liverpool have won the cup, so let's all just enjoy that and forget about VAR. And yeah, just enjoy the days and weeks to come when hopefully Liverpool could add even more silverware. That's been the Morning Bulletin from me and Ben. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll be back again tomorrow morning.